Hi, everyone. I'm Zac Greenberg, co-founder of Musicians for Health and your host of Brain Food. Today we have Tamara Harkavy with us, who has been a huge force in Cincinnati art for how long now, Tamara?
About 25 years.
About 25 years. And
Yeah.
She's founder of Artworks, which was, how long ago was that? 25 years also?
1995.
And can you tell us a little bit about you and some of the work that you've done for the community?
Sure. I am a Cincinnati native who couldn't wait to leave the city. I went to Walnut Hills, and when I finally graduated from high school, I was 17, and I went as far away as my father would let me, which was Arizona, because I couldn't go to California. And I went to school and graduated and lived around the world and had incredible experiences in India and England and France and all these great places, and came back to the States, eventually came back to Cincinnati, and went to graduate school and got a master's in urban planning. And when I was looking for a job, I stumbled upon a program in Chicago called Gallery 37, which was youth employment in the arts to solve the problem of a high unemployment rate for teens. And I went to a few folks in Cincinnati and was so fortunate with the support that I had 26 years ago, and started this program called Artworks. And we hired teens and we hired professional artists, put them into teams, and set them on their paths with goals to create certain kinds of projects. And art was the vehicle to teach these kids really important soft and hard skills for their future, as well as to give them a paycheck. And along the way, we literally changed the face of Cincinnati with our mural program, with the Big Pig gig, which was a huge success and still lives in Cincinnati lore, and with Blink and a host of other really cool projects that contributed to, I think, the goodness of our city.
Yeah, and on the show so far, we've mainly talked to people about the effects of arts on mental health and kind of individual well-being. But it's so interesting to be able to look at it from the perspective of a larger community and see how providing opportunities like this can make a healthier community and a better well-being for so many people, which is so important right now. We've also focused a lot on the COVID pandemic, but now we're in the middle of our Black Lives Matter experience in the world, which is so important. And having these programs is so empowering for especially youth of this time. And a good example is you were telling me earlier a little bit about this piece behind you, which seems extremely relevant for the times. Could you tell us a little bit about that for a second?
Well, it's relevant for the times now, but unfortunately, it's been relevant for the times for 400 years. This piece behind me was created by an artist named Terrence Hammonds. He's a Black artist, grew up in Over the Rhine, raised by his mother, and exceptionally brilliant. And he went to the School for Creative and Performing Arts. And this piece behind me was found in a dumpster at the end of the school year and the beginning of the first season of Artworks, because we hosted the program on their playground. And I'm not sure how well you can see what's going on in the background, but there's a cop, and he's got one of those, baton sticks, and a big badge and a red hand. And there's a line of kids, young Black faces, that you can see his face, and he's just angry, and he's hitting on them and shit's exploding everywhere around these poor, it's a gruesome piece, but very poignant. And I love it, and it is in my dining room, but it has a lot of meaning for today and for the 60s when we lived through this and before that.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful that the whole story to me is so beautiful and so telling of the power of art and of also the power of community, and that this community that Cincinnati has really been able to harbor that a lot of cities haven't, of having
Right.
empowerment for youth and being able to see that spending time to beautify your city and yourself is really important work. And part of that I've worked with you on over our years of knowing each other was being a part of Blink. And Artworks, I know, was one of the major forces in that happening. And something that I really loved from it was the connections, whether it was from collaborating with artists I didn't really know before, or just meeting the new artists that were there, which made me think about something we were talking about before this, which was the perspective of artists for mental health and how that can be really helpful, and how finding these relationships of madness, how everyone's kind of a little mad here, and how that's kind of this subconscious, almost like guiding force of finding artists that we like to work with, I feel like.
Well, first of all, if the way I look at that word that you brought up, that word madness, it's not as in angry, although there is a lot of that right now, and it's understandable. But it's all about, like, in the world of mental health, in mental self-care and well-being of an individual or a crowd. That madness for me is something we all have. I think madness is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody says, oh, well, are you normal or are you not normal? And I think that what is so brilliant about using the arts to connect and with artists who are so adept at solving problems is that, does my madness work with your madness? So for Blink and for Artworks and all these other efforts that are driven by creativity, the connections are really powerful. And the fact that like-mindedness and differences can come together, and through some little ping, some little nuance can make a connection, and build off of the crazy thinking that was Blink, or the crazy thinking that was Artworks, this will never work, or how the hell do you get 1 million people downtown and enjoy yourself, becomes that spark. That madness becomes a reality for all of us to share in joy and in pain and in sorrow, but that's what connects us.
Yeah.
In certain ways.
I feel that part of that is this larger respect that we have in the arts community, because I do a lot of cross collaboration with different, mediums, which is one of my favorite things to do. And so, but there's this respect that's almost built into the arts community, and it's not just limited to your field, but everybody understands that on some level, pretty much all of us are going through this madness, but we've still found time and put in the effort to perfect this art, to be able to put in this repetition and these hours, even though it's not always easy. And I think that having lucrative or any and much to get out of it at all besides well-being and joy and happiness and these connections. And it's such a beautiful thing that we're able to access in our world.
Well, I agree with you, because when you create collaborations, you draw on that magic power of creativity, and it feeds each other, right? So you have an idea, somebody else hears it, they say, oh yes, and how about this? And then it becomes this really powerful moment that in some cases we have been very fortunate to actualize and illuminate. the connections of people who have very creative brains working together are super powerful forces for unlocking, unleashing, understanding, empathy, communication, all of those things that humanity needs so badly to survive and thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Tamara, thank you so much for your time and for being on the show and for your thoughts and sharing your deep well of experience. I really appreciate you being here and being able to share and, try to keep the community connected as we are all a little more isolated than we're used to.
Zac, thanks for this amazing idea and feeding everybody's brain. It's incredible. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, and I'm so looking forward to getting some food and a drink when this is all wrapped up.
When you're here, I better be your second call after Nan.
Yeah, you will be.
Thank you for the t-shirts.
Oh yes, of course.
She's on it, man.
Yeah,
She's
brain food swag. It's turning out well. And yes, Joyce is an amazing force of making sure shaking and moving in the community.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Tamara.